two playoff series in the West are reaching a breaking point. Dallas and Colorado head to Game 7 after trading blowouts and collapses. Winnipeg tries to close out St. Louis, but their best forward is out and their goalie is struggling. This video breaks down how we got here and who's most likely to survive. The defining trait of this series has been its refusal to settle into a rhythm. Game to game, and often period to period, the tone has shifted without warning. Dallas came into the series with a deeper roster and more structure. Colorado arrived with explosiveness up front and two high-end game breakers in McKinnon and Makar. But through 6 games, none of those core attributes have consistently defined the outcome. What's driven this series instead is chaos, special team swings, sudden goal outbursts, and goaltending performances that vary by the minute. Colorado's 7-4 win in Game 6 summarized this chaos perfectly. After falling behind in the second period, they rallied with 4 unanswered goals in the third. A barrage capped off by a fluky deflection off Colin Blackwell's shoulder that somehow counted as a game winner for Nathan McKinnon. But the numbers don't do justice to the visual impression. Colorado looked unhinged and relentless in the final 10 minutes. Nichushkin was dominant below the goal line, Makar jumped into every rush, and Dallas completely lost its defensive structure. It was the third game in this series where one team's defense simply disappeared. And yet, we've already seen the opposite. In Game 5, Dallas dismantled Colorado 6-2. They scored 9 seconds in and never looked back, limiting zone entries and controlling the puck with tight layered forechecks. That version of Dallas looked like a conference finalist, disciplined, patient, and fast. But they haven't been able to repeat that performance since. In fact, the question now isn't just which version of Dallas will show up, but whether their blue line, particularly Issa Lindell and Ryan Suter, can survive another 60 minutes of forecheck pressure. Looking ahead to Game 7, home ice is technically on Dallas's side, but Colorado has momentum, and arguably the two best skaters in the series. Historically, these two teams have played 3 Game 7s, and Dallas has won all of them. But none of those involve the exact power dynamics we see now. A Colorado team that's flawed but peaking, and a Dallas team that's deeper but wobbling. It's a game where nothing that happened before will matter unless one team forces the other to play on their terms. At first glance, Winnipeg appeared to be in control. They won the first 2 games of the series with disciplined defensive play, opportunistic scoring, and just enough goaltending to hold off a less dynamic St. Louis offense. It looked like a short series in the making, but then the cracks began to show. The Blues adjusted, slowed the pace, and began targeting Winnipeg's weaknesses. Rebound control from Hellebuyck, turnovers in transition, and a top line that was taking on too many responsibilities. By Game 5, this series had become a grind, and Winnipeg was no longer the team dictating terms. Game 5 looked like a return to order, but that's misleading. Winnipeg won 5-3 at home, but not before nearly squandering a 2-goal lead and watching their top center, Mark Scheifele, leave the game in the first period with an upper body injury. His absence will extend into Game 6 and possibly beyond. That changes everything. Scheifele was not only Winnipeg's most consistent forward in the series, he was also their best puck transporter and a stabilizing force on the power play. Without him, the Jets have been forced to elevate players like Vladislav Nemesnikov and Morgan Barron into roles they haven't held all season. That shift was already visible in the later stages of Game 5, where the Blues won most of the high danger shifts despite losing the scoreboard battle. Then there's Hellebuyck. Once viewed as Winnipeg's safety net, he's now their biggest question mark. His .817 save percentage in the series is the worst among all starting goaltenders in these playoffs, and it's not just bad luck. The Blues have focused on creating traffic, jamming the net, and forcing Hellebuyck to move side to side under pressure, and it's working. Heading into Game 6, the pressure isn't evenly distributed. Winnipeg knows that letting this go to Game 7, even at home, invites disaster. St. Louis has the physicality to wear down a short-staffed Jets lineup, and the goaltending edge with Binnington, who's quietly put together a solid series. More importantly, the Blues have found ways to control tempo. If they can avoid early penalties and keep the game at 5-on-5, they've proven they can outlast Winnipeg shift by shift. The Jets, meanwhile, are banking on their depth to step up, but so far depth hasn't been the difference. Survival has. The most telling detail of these two series isn't found in the scores, it's in how fragile every lead has felt. No team has been able to hold a rhythm for more than a game, and that's usually a sign that structure is fading and nerves are taking over. Between Dallas and Colorado, the margins are now psychological. Colorado is the team playing freer, attacking with speed, and willing to let their stars drive the game. Dallas, on the other hand, has played their best hockey when everything is tight. Game 7 favors the team that can force the other out of its comfort zone. Right now, that's Colorado. In the Winnipeg-St. Louis matchup, things feel less tactical and more about attrition. The Jets were built to out-depth opponents, 3 solid lines, mobile defense, and a Vezina-level goaltender. But when one of those pillars fails, in this case, goaltending, the structure wobbles. If Winnipeg can't reassert their game early in Game 6, they could easily find themselves in a Game 7 they aren't equipped to handle.